stay in England, and of course, this time we move to Manchester, and it's that controversy. It's the Manchester City story that broke on Friday. Now, this is a follow-up to that developments that are continuing, of course, to come to light. A consultant's report written for the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi stated that the Abu Dhabi government, not the Etihad Airlines, was covering the sponsorship of Manchester City in 2010, and that's according to a 2015 US aviation industry document. UEFA's financial fair play compliance body, the CFCB, banned Manchester City from the Champions League for 2 seasons on Friday and fined the club €30 million, having concluded the club was not being truthful in its admissions from 2012 to 2016 that Etihad wholly funded its annual $67.5 million sponsorship. Now, former Arsenal boss Arsene Wenger believes big spending Manchester City cost him trophies by plundering players from the Emirates.
I think sport is basically to win by respecting the rules. That's what it is about. We celebrate all the best in every sport, but we want to know that they respect the rules. If there's no respect for the rules, it's not real sport. So that's what I think is the most important. Once you go into a competition, it means you sign that you will go into a competition by respecting the rules. There is an evolution to be made in the way the rules are built up at the moment. But they are what they are, and you have to respect them. And people who don't respect them and are caught by trying to get around the rules in more or less legal ways have to be punished.
Arsene Wenger there, the former Arsenal manager, coming out very strongly and saying that those that break the rules need to be punished. And as far as it's, to be honest, when you look at it at face value, there's a law that's in place. Manchester City flouted that law, and therefore they have to be punished, Barry.
It's quite simple, and I love the way that Arsene Wenger put it. I'm paraphrasing. Sport is about winning matches and winning tournaments within the rules. If you break the rules, you fall foul of it. It's sometimes referred to as cheating. So the rules are there to govern how football clubs are run, and those rules are the financial fair play. Manchester City fell foul of those. They broke the rules, and therefore the censure comes. Whether it's a yellow or a red card, the censure comes.
The censure comes, Alois, and this is a big punishment, and it's unprecedented. 2 seasons out of the Champions League, and we know that teams like Manchester City have been built essentially to compete in that competition and to try and win that competition. Pep Guardiola coming to Man City was not about trying to dominate England. It was about him trying to take Man City up to the next level, and that next level is the Champions League. Do you see this as a just, a fair and fitting punishment?
It's a crushing blow for Manchester City. Obviously, you know, their fans, everybody, especially the sponsors as well, and Pep Guardiola, and the fans in general, in the neutral fan. You know, we have been hearing all stories about Pep Guardiola. This is the one who needs the Champions League, like you have said. And I think the punishment has come heavily. I think it's too heavy, if you ask me, because they're not the first ones to commit fair play. I agree with Barry. If there are rules, then they need to be followed. They flouted the rules. When they were flouting the rules, why wasn't there a red flag when they were doing it, and a warning that, yeah, look, this is what you're doing, watch out? You know, I prefer things like those, not like letting somebody fall into a ditch then punish them, but you can actually see them walking in and you are not telling them. Tell them that yo, this is where you are right now. You can't be signing any more players because of ABC. I think that's what should have been done. But having said that, I'll come back to your question. I still think that 2-year ban is actually a very big ban. £25 million, yes, but it's much more than that. When you look at how much
there's a knock-on effect.
The pedigree, the just as an institution, Man City as a whole, the players that they're going to sign again, will they attract those good players as well when they have got a 2-year ban?
Now, Alois paused talking about the knock-on effect. It's 30 million in name, but it's been calculated that they will lose upwards of £200 million in terms of revenue. revenue if they're to stay out of the Champions League. There's also the issue that they'll lose certain players, certain marquee players will lose, like what happened to Juventus when they hit their troubles. Players like Ibrahimovic left and went to play at clubs that were fitting of their ambition. And there's in a sense that players like Kevin De Bruyne, who have ambitions and want to play at the very top in world football, may consider leaving Man City as a result of this ban because they won't be able to play Champions League football.
Yeah, I think that is the main issue here. Going back to what you're all saying, look, Barry's correct. You know what? There's rules, and you've got to abide by the rules. City haven't abided by the rules; they've broken them. 2-year ban, I think, is tough. I really think it's hard.
Heavy.
It's heavy. It's heavy. Look, I think that they should get some kind of punishment, but definitely for me, two seasons out of the Champions League. Let me tell you now, you actually don't realise what 2 years is.
Yeah, now, let's look at the other side, guys. And I understand, Barry, you've said that there are rules and there are regulations, and when they are put in place, they must be followed. But let's take a look at this historically, because that's to be short-sighted and say that now. You know, we have seen teams that have come about and teams that have, some have even gone, who have built their legacies and their achievements on the back of cold, hard cash. In fact, a lot of these teams now that are at the very top of Europe, whether they're in England, in Spain, in Italy, in Germany, they've all had unfair financial advantages in years gone by, and that's how they've built their success. Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, they've enjoyed that privilege for so many years. Silvio Berlusconi's AC Milan, they were buying the best players because there was no one to limit who they could buy. Chelsea bought 30 players in 3 seasons, Alois.
Yes.
When Roman Abramovich spent 2 billion in 10 years. 2 billion pounds, eh? Not even US dollars, 2 billion pounds, right? So there are teams that have found this success as a result of unlimited spending, and then this law comes up about as a result. And that's why Gary Neville now, who we're going to hear from next, you know, he speaks and he says that Man City's ban should be overturned because to grow organically like people are saying that Man City should do and catch up with the rest of the big boys is simply impossible.
The idea that Manchester City are not able to invest the money of the ownership, I disagree with. I've always felt FFP is the wrong way to apply the financial rules. My hometown club, Bury, went bust last year, which obviously a club that's very close to my heart, and I think FFP was brought in to stop clubs essentially going bust. However, there are different ways of achieving that. In all other forms of business, there are bank guarantees, there are bonds, there are owners' pledges. You know, ultimately, if owners sign up to contracts or allow contracts to sign under their ownership, then they should have the money in place to be able to fulfil those contracts. I think Manchester City's owners have got that. I think if you look at what Chelsea, Manchester City, Leicester, Blackburn going back 20 odd years under Jack Walker, we would never see the emergence of these clubs, if you like, below what would be the Manchester United, Liverpool's, Arsenal's, who have got all the sort of history, the revenue, the tradition to be able to compete under FFP. What we're saying is that FFP stifles investment into football clubs that can stimulate communities like Blackburn, like other clubs. I obviously am an owner at Salford. You know, we would never be able to do what we're doing if we weren't allowed to invest into our club. And we're saying that essentially we should create a status quo in football, almost like a franchise. And I think the top clubs in Europe, probably like Manchester United, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, they would take football towards a franchise-type model if we didn't have the emergence of clubs who could invest and owners who could invest in other clubs. There are negatives with that, and there have been some horror stories of where owners essentially have invested into clubs and then they've not followed through with their commitments. That's got to be stopped. But there are other ways of stopping that without applying FFP. So I have a real problem with FFP to start with. I have done, to be fair, for 7 or 8 years. I don't think it's the right way to apply it. I think City will beat UEFA. I think UEFA, I've got no faith in them whatsoever. I think essentially they're a hopeless organisation who will just apply, to be fair, what would be erratic disciplinary sanctions for different things, and I think City will beat them in the courts. I think it'll get stuck in the courts for some time, but I think City will win in the end.
Gary Neville says City will win in the end. And the reason why I also back him is because this is an unjust law.
It is unjust, but it's the law that we have, and the laws must be respected. They didn't creep up on people. And you talk about there's the aristocracy.
Why
of
was it
European
put in
football.
place?
Hold on. There's the aristocracy of European football. How many career goals did Pele score? He scored nearly 1,000, over 1,000 goals. He scored those when the offside rule was very different to what it is now. Doesn't mean that the offside rule didn't need to be changed. It was changed. Lionel Messi can crowd.
That's why we generally acknowledge that Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi are superior players.
But when we look at the stats, who has the most career goals? We look at Pele, and that's going to be and subsist for a very long time. Those clubs took advantage of a law that didn't exist at the time.
But those are the clubs,
exists
Barry.
now.
UEFA is made up of clubs.
Agreed.
Those are the clubs that are pushing this agenda.
Yeah,
and you think they're doing it because they're saying, oh, you know what, Man City, you just might become broke in the future, and we are concerned about your finances.
And the smaller clubs had an opportunity to weigh in on the matter, and this thing was passed. Why was it passed? Then vote to
The small
repeal
clubs
it.
don't have the power,
The
Barry.
small
They
clubs
don't have power.
by sheer weight
I
of
doubt
numbers.
Wolves is invited to the decision-making table.
Small clubs are small.
Time is the enemy.
What I'm going to say, they are being taken to court, and this is how rules can change. You remember the Bossman
Agreed.
rule? And I'm happy that Man City are taking them to court,
And they're gonna fight
and I
it.
hope that they're going to fight, and this rule is going to be wiped away.
There's going to be blood in
it can't-
Brussels.
it can't be
Pause this
wiped
show.